tournament play. That's what you guys see on TV all the time. Basically, everyone starts with the same amount of chips. Once you lose all your chips, you're out of there. The tournament keeps going until one guy has them all. In Stacked, you can choose from single table tournaments or multi-table tournaments. In multi-table tournaments, you'll face off against hundreds of other players on your way to the final table. If you end up being one of the top finishers, you'll divide the prize money with the others. That's called making the money. In some tournaments, there's a feature called the rebuy. In a rebuy event, if you go broke, you have the option to buy back in during the rebuy period. Once the rebuy period is over, you'll have an opportunity to add on to your existing stack. In a tournament, the blinds continue to increase at scheduled intervals. As that happens, you no longer have the need for the smaller denomination chips. So what happens then is we do what's called coloring up, trading the small chips for bigger ones. If you happen to have any odd chips, well, that's when we do the high card race. Everybody always wants to know, how do you read your opponents? Well, reading your opponents isn't easy. It's both an art and a science. There's really two approaches, or two things you can combine to help you read opponents. The first thing being physical tells, looking for mannerisms and trying to pick up on maybe facial tics and things. But realistically, looking to see how somebody twists their cookie, that's not going to get it done. What's more reliable is to focus on your opponent's betting patterns, how they bet their hands, and past betting history. So while physical tells aren't the be-all, end-all of reading your opponents, there's still a few things that you should look for that'll really help you out in a key pot. For one, if you notice that a player's betting really aggressively, and all of a sudden his arm extends like that, like, I bet! Well, chances are, this guy's trying to scare you. He might be bluffing. Conversely, if you notice that a person's betting, I bet, you go careful, well, he's inviting you in. He's like, come on in, I gotcha. Which leads me to the next example, and that's the sigh. If you notice a guy go like this when he sees an ace on the flop and says, chances are, that's some bad acting right there. He loves that board, and he's just trying to fake a tell. Which brings me to the last thing. Once you've coined, and once you know that your opponent is using fake tells, look for stuff like that. If you see that he looks at the board and goes, you know what that means? That means he loves what he sees there. Once an actor, always an actor. Once a bad actor, always a sucker. You'll often hear people on TV say things like, I can see through his soul. Like, give me a break. No, you can't. The truth is, the great players are great. Why? Because they focus on betting patterns. They focus on the action, the pre-flop action, flop action. How does this person play these hands in certain positions? Does this person raise with a flush draw? Would this person ever just call with a big pair like aces or kings? The more questions you ask yourself and the more answers you get, the higher the likelihood that you're going to make the right decision in the long run. So again, to improve your hand reading skills, you need to combine both the art and the science. Both the physical mannerisms as well as your opponent's betting patterns. You really just got to pay attention. Watch your opponents. The more information you have, the better decisions you'll be able to make in those big, crucial pots. There are different forms of betting structures in Hold'em. There's always 4 betting rounds, of course, but in Limit Hold'em, that betting is structured. For example, let's say you were playing $10 and $20 Hold'em. Before the flop, you'd have to bet and raise in increments of 10. After the flop, again, you'd have to bet or raise in increments of 10. Now on the turn, the bet doubles. Now you'd have to throw out 20 bucks or raise it to 40 bucks. On the river, once again, the increments are in $20 bets. It takes a lot of courage to play No Limit Hold'em. When it comes to the betting, pretty much are no rules. You can bet, raise, re-raise as many times as you like. Of course, you have to raise at least as much as the big blind, but if you think you got your opponent right where you want him, well then you could stick it all in. You know, back in the old days, if you didn't have enough money to call a bet, you'd have to just give it up. That means Moneybags over here would just keep robbing me all day. But today we play table stakes. So that means I can stick all my money in, and he'd have to match it. If he raised me, I'm already all in. Any additional money goes into what's called the side pot. Of course, I can't win any of that, but I definitely get action on my money.